Hey guys, and welcome to another quick tip tutorial. Now this time it's another video on the do's and don'ts of ZBrush, and let's get started right away with Snake Hook. And as you can see, we've got some of these hairs that push out of his beard here, right? They really come out. Now on my particular model I don't want to do that, but if you did want to do that, there's multiple ways of doing that. But again, what you would probably try and do is maybe use the move brush, okay, and then you kind of move this out. And what you would want to do normally is you would use the move brush and kind of move it, so like that, okay, and you would kind of shape it in a manner that suggests, okay, there you go, right? So something like that. Now to do that every time, right, to move that and then move that and then move that, that's a bit of a mission there, right? So what I would do is use the snake hook brush, and let me just undo all that, right? So I would use the snake hook brush, which is B, S, and then H. So there's two of them, the snake hook 2 and snake hook. We're just going to use the snake hook brush, okay, BSH. And here now, depending on where you're facing, so let's say here for example, we'll just do something like that. And as you can see, it uses, right, what we already have. And what I would do is Dynamesh that. Okay, it works pretty well with Dynamesh. Okay, so something like that. And again, that's the way the camera was facing. If I did it this way, for example, okay, again, Dynamesh that. Okay, now you'll notice it's kind of where the camera is facing. Another thing you could use, which is really convenient with the snake hook brush especially, is the Sculptris Pro. Okay, it's right here. Okay, you click on that, it will be activated, and you notice your cursor will change the color. If I click off of it again, your cursor is red by default. If I click on that, it becomes purple. In case you don't have this, in case you're wondering where that is, just go to stroke and we go to Sculptris Pro, which is right here. Click on that and that's the same thing. Okay, so what you can do is use the snake hook again, BSH, and previously when we used it, you notice that it would get a little pixelated here, but now what it's doing is it's actually giving us topology while we brush. Okay, so if I press Shift F, you'll notice what I'm doing here. Okay, so have a look at that. And also you can only go so far, right? It will run out of polygons eventually, so something like that. So this is pretty cool. So that's the Sculptris Pro. You cannot use the Sculptris Pro with every brush, but it works with most brushes. So let's say that you have too much resolution here, for example. You can use the smooth brush, which is now orange. It's usually blue. Okay, and you can give a bigger brush size, okay, and then smooth it out, and you now notice that we've got a different type of polygons here. And if you look at the active points, if I undo that and redo that, okay, that's a really great way of quickly just minusing points. Okay, it's also a really quick way of destroying your topology, so just be careful with that. Okay, and in case you're wondering how we determine that, if you've got a bigger brush size, okay, so if I smooth it out with Shift, you've got that. If I go to smaller brush size, okay, and you'll now notice we've got more polygons. So depending on your brush size, that just depends on that. So the move brush doesn't work with this. You see it's normal. Okay, that won't affect that. It just doesn't work with the move brush. It does, however, work with your snake hook brush. Okay, so that's what your snake hook is for, and that's what Sculptris Pro is for. And this is pretty good. So if you don't like subdivisions and you're kind of on the fence with Dynamesh, Sculptris Pro might just be for you, right? So we go to your clay buildup, and we can kind of build up these areas as we go. And there's no need to Dynamesh, right? Okay, and you can keep going and going and going, and you'll never really run out of geometry because it's constantly building that up as you go. Okay, again, Shift F, you'll notice we've got more polygons there than we did here. So that's how you use the Sculptris Pro in conjunction with brushes, especially the snake hook, which pulls out geometry and adds while you're doing that. So that's pretty cool. Make sure you switch it off though. You don't want to use this all the time because you might not realize you're adding points and you might end up with millions of polygons. But yeah, that is pretty cool. So that's it for that one. Alright, so next up we have the clay brush, not the clay buildup, which is what I use all the time, but the clay brush. So let me just show you the difference really quickly. With the clay buildup, you can build up areas, and let's just bring this intensity up here. Okay, you can build up areas really quickly, but let's say you wanted to fill this nose in for some reason, okay. If you're doing this, you'll notice it kind of destroys the forms around it, and also it's kind of, it's doing an okay job filling that in, okay. But if you wanted to fill this in really quickly, what you would do is go to the clay brush, which is BC, and we've got the clay brush over here, so BCL, okay, and you can just use this, and this will just fill it in, as you can see, really quickly, without really disturbing too much of the other side there, okay. So something along those lines, and just be careful, right, that you don't clip the edges there, and you can do this up really quickly. And here you've done that without really messing up the sides here, okay. So that's one way to fill a hole really quickly. And of course you can just use the move brush and then again just try and move these things, but you kind of disturb the geometry around that. Another reason for using that is, let's say you went a little too deep with some of your creases here, okay, for your wrinkles. Maybe this one doesn't actually exist on your portrait. What I would do is come back in here, and normally what you would do is take the clay buildup and you would try and fill that in, and you do a pretty good job, right? Do that, and then you can maybe take the standard brush, right, just push that out, and then you can re-dynamesh that, okay, and then we can smooth that out. So that's one way of doing that, and that doesn't look too bad, right? And then, but that's kind of a bit of a process there, right? You have to use clay buildup, the smooth brush, and dynamesh. Okay, but if we just used our clay brush, okay, we can just fill that in really quickly without needing to. And let's bring the intensity down. Actually, it's quite high. Okay, we can fill that up pretty easily. Okay, and to the point where it's almost flush with what we have there. And then we can just, again, we will have to smooth it out, but I do think it's a pretty good job, right, with what we have there. And I think it's a little bit cleaner, right? So there it is. Okay, and that's one way of using the clay brush. I don't actually use the clay brush to sculpt things because I feel it's too soft. A lot of people do though, but it's just not for me. I use the clay buildup brush, but that's how you use the clay brush, just to fill up areas really quickly. Kind of helps out, as opposed to using the clay buildup or the standard brush, or even a damn standard, just to kind of fill up areas. So it just works out better. Alright, so next up we've got Mesh Project, and in order to add, let's say, hair to this guy, we already have hair obviously, but let's say I just click on this one, and let's say we didn't have hair, okay, we wanted to add hair really quickly. Now there's a few ways of doing this, but what I would do is I'll press B, M, and we'll go to Mesh Project, which is O, so B, M, O. Okay, we click on that, and let's say we want a mustache rim, and I'm going to press Symmetry, or X for Symmetry. We're going to hold down Control, click and drag, and we're just going to drag this out here. So just a very basic mustache shape. Obviously want to do a better job than that, so let's maybe do it like this. Okay, doesn't have to be exact, honestly. Okay, so something along those lines. Now what we have is just a really quick mustache, and we can separate this out and deal with that. And then next we've got something here, right, for example. Okay, and then that's done. Okay, and then we've got maybe for this area here as well. Okay, and we don't want to drag outside of the area, so we want to do this. Okay, by the way, if this red line is annoying you, right, the one that drags with it, okay, so what you can do is go on over to stroke, go on over to lazy mouse, and then hold down Control. Okay, Control. You notice that lazy radius is on 64, which is pretty high, so you might want to bring that down to like 20 or something, and that will give you just a shorter line to work with. Okay, so that's just one way I would do that. And what I would do is just clear that, and I would press W to get out the gizmo, Control click on this, and because it has different groups, I can just pull this out. Okay, so something like that, and then I can do that, and then I can dynamesh this. Okay, so I'll just dynamesh that, and this isn't a good idea because it's going to dynamesh everything together, but that's okay. Right, and so there we have that. So I'm just going to undo that. What I would do is do this, right, press Control Shift A, right, invert that. Actually, we can just split that. So we go to Split Hidden, and Split Hidden, by the way, is under Subtool, Split, Split Hidden. Okay, and then here we have our tools here. Okay, and that's now separate. Okay, so that's a really quick way just to get hair really quickly, and then obviously we'll detail this, right, just to have it look like the original hair that I had over here. Okay, so just like that. And that's actually how I made this hair. Yeah, so that's one way of doing that. Okay, so another way to use Mesh Project is maybe for armor pieces. So what you could do is Control, click and drag, and of course you have armor, right? And if you want to minus from this, so let's say, you know, you've done the perfect curve, but that one piece on the end there is kind of messed up. What you want to do is hold on Control, okay, drag, and then tap Alt, and then that should minus it. But it doesn't do it here because we need to do this, okay? And then don't move your camera, okay? So Control, drag that out, press Alt, and then let go, and that will minus that piece, okay? Obviously it's a little bit wonky here, so I'll do that, and not like that, and I'll do that. Okay, and that should minus that out. Okay, so don't move your camera. If you want to add to this, again, hold down Control, okay, drag out your shape, press Shift, okay, and then let go. So it's a little bit finicky because you can't move your camera. If I move my camera and now I want to add to this piece, I can't. If I press Shift while doing that, okay, nothing will happen. It'll just go over that piece, which can be quite annoying. So that's just another way to use the Mesh Project. Okay, so again, Control, click and drag, we create a shape. Don't move your camera if you want to add or minus to it. Hold down Control, so let's say we want to add to this, okay, and then hold down Shift, let go of click, and that will add to it. Now we want to minus this, Control, click and drag, okay, hold down Alt, let go of click, and now we've minused from that. Okay, what you could also do as well is go to your stroke menu, okay, which is over here, click and drag that. and we can go to, let's say, rectangle, for example. Actually, want to hold down control. On lasso, let's go to circle maybe. Okay, and then we can drag this out, for example, and then alt, and then that'll minus from it. So drag, hold shift, and then that'll add to that. Again, I don't move my camera, so that's why we can do that. So that's a pretty cool way of adding things and adding shapes, and just yeah, just adding to it, moving around. And that's just an overall cool way to use mesh projection. Okay, so that's one way of adding things like armor. And oh, one thing I totally forgot to mention was that the thickness, you probably are wondering, so the intensity controls the thickness. Okay, if I put this to 13, control, click and drag, you'll now notice that it should be a little bit thicker. Hold on control, by the way. I keep forgetting to hold on control. So hold on control, make sure that goes up, and then now if we control, click and drag, you'll now notice it's a bit thicker. So control, bring that up to 29, for example. Okay, and now it's a bit thicker. Okay, you cannot really change this after it's done. What you could do though is hold on W, press W, control click, and then just move this in. Although that's kind of an okay way of doing that. You will have to control the thickness by holding down control, bringing down the intensity to about 8 or something. And then we can do that. And of course, to change it back, hold down control, click on lasso, which is the default. Okay, then we've got that. So that's kind of a way to create armor, or just basically project anything from your mesh. And of course, if you just want to separate it from your mesh, you can control click and drag to clear the mask, control shift click on this guy here, control shift A to grow everything, and then we'll split hidden. Again, split hidden is under subtool, okay, subtool and split, and then split hidden. I can't do it now because there's nothing hidden. And then of course we can go to it over here. Okay, so that's a really cool way to use mesh project. Alright, so next up we have custom menus, and something I think people forget a lot about. If you do have your own custom menu, and so for example at the bottom this is a custom menu, and I also have my custom menus over here. Okay, so custom menu 3, 2 and 1, and let's just use this one for example. I'll drag this here. So now let's say that you use snake hook all the time, okay, and you don't actually have it in your custom menu, so you're always pressing B and then S and then H. That's fine, but just to press custom menu 1 and go to snake hook is a lot easier. So just to save yourself time, what you will want to do is use custom menus. Now I do have snake hook here, but if I wanted to, or let's say I didn't have it, what I would do is go to configuration, okay, and I would say enable customize. And again, let's say I didn't have that, what I would do is I would go to brush. Let's bring this here as well. And that's too many menus actually, so I'm going to close that. I'll go to brush over here, and what I will do is control and alt and then click and drag this, and then just drag this to where I kind of want it. So now we have snake hook here, okay, and then I'm going to go to preferences, store configuration, okay, and then save UI, and that will save it out. So now you don't have to worry about pressing BSH all the time. So just remember, if you're using something over and over again in a project, maybe use it in your custom menus or integrate it into your custom menu. And maybe you don't want to clutter your custom menu, so you just put it down here, for example, and then when you're done you can always control alt, click and drag it out, okay, and then that will get rid of it. Then again, you want to go to preferences, store configuration and save UI. I'm not clicking on these because I don't want to do that, but store configuration and save UI. And of course, if you're using my UI and you want to load it, load UI, load mine, and then store it and then save it again. And yeah, so it's just something that people forget. They kind of use these brushes over and over again, and they forget to actually put them in their custom menus just to make life a little bit easier. And it's also a lot quicker to access your custom menu, go to snake hook and do whatever you need to do. You can also save multiple custom menus, so preferences, save UI, you can save it out. So maybe this one is for like hard surface modeling, so you'll call it hard surface modeling, and then you've got one for organic modeling because you only use those brushes when you're hard surface modeling. So I think that's a pretty cool way just to change up your UI and make sure that you're saving just a little bit of time there. So not too crazy of a tip there, but I think a lot of people forget about it, so pretty useful though. Okay, and if you do want to know how to create your own custom UI, I do have a video about that, and you can check the description below. I've got quite a few actually, so be sure to check those out. Okay, and that is it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, like it if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't. Let me know what you guys thought about it in the comment section. Maybe I might have missed something that you really wanted to know about. Just let me know as well. But I do have quite a few beginner videos that you can check out. I cover quite a few things and concepts in those videos, and they do have chapters as well, so you can just kind of scroll through them and see what I cover, what I don't cover. But I have covered quite a bit in the beginner tutorial, so maybe check those ones out as well. And yeah, hope you guys liked it, and thanks again for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.